Welcome back to the 293 Code Podcast. Today's episode is Uncomfortable Truth. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. The uncomfortable truth about mental health is something that most people don't want to talk about. But in order for you to be able to talk about your uncomfortable truth, you have to be real. You have to be real with each other. You have to be real with yourself. And you have to face, what you're going through in life. I know for me, when I finally got diagnosed with everything that I had going on, it was kind of like shocking because I was just like, man, what am I supposed to do now?
Right.
I felt like it was me against the world because I felt like, man, walls are about to come down, but I wasn't ready for the walls to come down. So then you know what I had to do? I had to make sure I kept them walls up. So I put a little extra padding on the wall, put up some extra posts to keep that wall stable. Because the first thing I was just like, I got too much going on in life for myself, and people see me in a different limelight for me to be able to, in order for me to be able to continue on that path, right. I couldn't let nobody break me. That was the hardest thing to have to keep up. Was my main goal was to not be broken.
So explain that more, go more in depth as far as not being able to be broken.
Because when you go on in life, especially at a young age, and you have to carry yourself a certain way, and you already got all these odds against you, you know what I'm saying? You don't come from a rich family, you got to make ends meet from point A to point B.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. You scrapping to put food on the table, even though, grandma always made sure you had a meal and your stomach was going to be full. But then you go into a household where it was like, turn the stove on and everybody's sitting in one room to keep warm. And it's just like you fight all these different odds and, just growing up and, trying to be a good student and stuff like that. You never thought about your mental health, never thought about the trauma of it.
Yeah, you really never did.
So you already being built into something. Mm-hmm. You becoming a soldier, you becoming a warrior, you becoming a survivalist.
Yeah.
But it's not until you get older, and they're saying it's true, when you get older in life, some of these walls start getting old and starting to crack. Mm-hmm. You got to face that reality of like, what's really going on? But see, back in our era, mental health wasn't a thing. It's always been around, but nobody talked about it. They tell you to pray about it. They tell you you're going to get through. People will tell you that you're strong and just forget about and avoid everything that you done said. So, especially being an athlete growing up, I didn't have time to hear that like, oh, I got these diagnoses. What am I doing about it? Mm-hmm. No, I got to cover this up. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So walking around, acting like everything is okay, but deep down inside trying to figure out who I really am because I already been painted a picture.
Right.
So how can you sit there and say, nope, tear this painting up, this is me, if the picture's already been painted and everything's going so good? You got to continue to go down that path with the painted picture.
Right.
Because that painted picture have so much value to everybody else, but not yourself. Once again, like I said, to everybody else. But it wasn't valuable to me. Mm. Because if I would have showed people the real me, tore the painting up, took off the mask, if I didn't value myself, everything was appreciated. It was zero.
Right.
So I had to continue to just stay on that pattern. And I'm sitting here thinking like, you know what? Sports is going to get me out. Sports is going to get me out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then I went along that road of, going overseas, playing basketball, seeing the world, traveling, and everybody's telling me, oh, how great it is. You know what? You deserved it. You worked so hard. But none of that stuff really mattered because I still didn't know how to love myself. Mm. I was searching for something totally different. I was searching for happiness. Right. I thought like, you know what? I thought basketball was going to make me happy, but it didn't. Then I went through so many different trials and tribulations with basketball, with injuries and, like being under different ownerships and thinking like basketball still going to make me happy. But then basketball wasn't even fun anymore.
Right.
It was like, they tell people like, if you work in a job and you hate it, quit it.
Yeah.
But see, for me, basketball was supposed to be a job. It was supposed to be a way out, and it was supposed to be fun. But basketball turned into a job as soon as I started playing organized basketball in 7th grade.
So it was like your lifeline.
It was my lifeline. Sports made me feel different. It made me like escape reality. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that reality only lasted for an hour or two. And then it was just like, boom, back into, let's go into this fight again, back into destruction, back into trying to survive. You know what I'm saying? Nobody want to hear you talk about the suicide attempts. Nobody wanted to hear that. Nobody knew about the suicide attempts.
It makes them feel uncomfortable.
It made people feel uncomfortable. Don't nobody want to talk about it.
And then you're labeled as crazy. The word crazy.
Exactly. Don't have, an episode where you become manic and everything done boiled up and you can't talk about it. Because people are not really listening to what you're saying. They looking at your reactions and they feeding off that. Because they're uncomfortable. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to talk you down. And then when you try to be vulnerable in those moments and try to reach out to, friends and family and stuff like that and tell them, then they sugarcoat it to make themselves feel better, but not really, once again, listening to what you're saying. And some people say, well, go get help. But you know what? Getting help to a certain extent is one of those things. It's a process.
That's true.
You can go get help. But then you have to dig deep into yourself and invest in yourself to realize, like, whoever I go to or whoever I go see, is that the right person for me? And what I mean by that is, like, are they going to challenge me to help me really dig down deep into myself and get to know who I am as a person and help me come up out this hole to be able to continue to survive every single day? Because sometimes people get the wrong idea thinking like if you go to a therapist, if you go to a counselor, if you're on medication that you're fit. It doesn't work like that. You still have to put those challenges in every single day, just like when you're an athlete and you have to practice to stay great or even attempt to be a good athlete. It's the same thing with mental health. Mm-hmm. You can't, I can't just go sit there one day and talk to my therapist and walk out and be like, oh, I feel good. Yeah, I feel good in a moment. But then I know when I get back home and, today, tomorrow, and further on out to the end of the week, I'm still going to have challenges.
Yeah, I think people are so like family members, friends, loved ones. When you have someone that struggles with mental health, like, I don't think they even know which way to go. The first thing they do, and we all seen this, and oh man, that person crazy. Yeah. Or, trying to say, hey, if you go to the doctor or go to a therapist, then they can fix you. And like you said, it takes a lot of mental work to do that. And some people are uncomfortable with that. Because if you think about it, it has to bring up your childhood trauma and all the triggers that you have. So you're sitting there in therapy and you're getting uncomfortable. And at that point, you're like, I don't like this. Or You're telling a family member, hey, this is what I struggle with. And you start going in depth with it. And they're like, you know what? They cut you off real quick. Hey, you just need to talk to somebody like a therapist or something, get some help. Because, girl, you going off the hinges. That's how they deal with stuff.
No, you're right. And sometimes family is the hardest to even try to fill them in on what's going on with you. Because like you said, if they hear something that they don't want to hear or think that they're part of the blame or part of the problem, they cut you off real fast. Mm-hmm. Now, you crazy, you need to go get help. And sometimes that's not even the case, and then like sometimes you get people, family, friends, whoever, be like, well, why you didn't say anything? Why didn't you tell me what was going on? Because you couldn't help. You're not qualified to help. Mm-hmm. People can talk all day. Yeah. I could talk to people and let them know what's going on with me. But at the end of the day, I knew they couldn't help me. Mm. You know what I'm saying? People would sit here and they would tell me something that was good to hear. But I'm the type of person that if I can't really feel it, it ain't helping me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be a realist. Sometimes people ask like, man, you really deep into mental health. And I'm just like, yeah, I am. I actually sat in the institution. Most people don't know that, And the thing of it is that what people don't seem to realize is I was in it with some of the realest people ever. you know, and it's just like, I wasn't even scared because I'm just like, look, hell, I'm one of y'all too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It was like, that's the only place that you could really go. And it was like, forget your accolades, forget what kind of job you had, forget what kind of outside life you lived outside of those walls. And here, we're all equal as one.
Yeah, that's
At the end of the day, we all got something in common.
Mm-hmm.
We're struggling. We're struggling to survive every single day. And it's sad that I had to go all the way out of state to be able to get that type of help. But even though I had triggers coming back, it was like, it just made me stronger in a way to where it's like, okay, I got to continue to fight.
Right.
You know, because it's just like, I don't know what made me have that drive to where it's like, okay, I'm stronger today. I don't know how I'm going to be tomorrow, but I'm going to continue to fight to live another day. And, you know, people see me and they think like, oh, like, you know, Boney's cool. Boney's got, you know what I'm saying? Boney's funny. Boney got a lot going on. But it's just like, at the end of the day, nobody really know what I got going on. They don't know how I feel.
You're right.
People still to this day assume, you know, in general, when they see you, they think they know everything about you.
Mm-hmm.
They may see whatever they see on social media. Whatever you see on social media, it's just a painted picture. If you really want to know what I got going on, let's sit down at the table and have a conversation. But people don't know how to do that anymore.
I think in order to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone, you have to be vulnerable, and a lot of people don't want to do that.
Right. And sometimes you got to be able to talk to the right people, though.
That's true.
You know,
Because not everybody's worth your story or your conversation.
Nah, you're absolutely right. You got to value yourself to be able to spread your worth. And what I mean by that is, I would rather sit at a table with somebody who's going through the struggle and hear them out, and they hear me out. And I may not be able to help them. They may not be able to help me. But in that moment, we was able to be who we was with no judgment. Nobody trying to tell us, well, you know, be strong, hang in there, I'm going to pray for you. None of that. But you just keeping it 100 about how you feel today. No matter what the topic is, no matter what come out of your mouth, I'm going to listen.
Right.
And it's like, I think sometimes people get the message, you know, jacked up. Is that when people are in those moments, don't nobody be wanting encouragement. Because what is encouragement going to do at that moment? Sometimes people get triggered by those words because you know what? You don't heard it for so long. It's like sometimes when you trying to be encouraged in those moments when you down, you feel like nobody's really listening. They just trying to shut you up to make themselves feel good. And they just hoping like, well, hope, you know, well, we about to go our separate ways. So good luck.
So what you say is more of a respect thing? For instance, like, if you respect someone, you're going to listen, right? They're going to be heard. It's just like a professor or someone with money with high accolades.
Right.
You're going to listen.
You're going to listen.
Because you respect that person and you think that person got so much to tell you that can help you, right?
Right. I mean, I've had people tell me stuff that was like deep down that was, you know, it's like sad and like wholeheartedly like, man, like I really feel your pain. Mm-hmm. And all I could do was just be real back and tell them, I understand. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to get better. It get harder. Because who am I to tell somebody you got to keep fighting and you got to keep being strong? You know, it's like, yeah, I still want that person to be here. But in that moment and in that time, they got to know that I really know what the hell they got going on.
Right. That's like suicide.
Right.
With the youth. I mean, we had not just youth, just people in general just committing suicide. And I think, and the first thing I see is, you know, like, why? The question is why? And then the second thing I see is, you know, they had a good life, or, you know, or it can be this, or they had a rough life. It may not be neither. And I think a lot of those things people don't understand. They don't get it because it's more of self than saying, you know what, I know that this person's struggling. She has talked about, or he has talked about,
Right.
or they has talked about suicide in the past. So I want to have a conversation and see why and, how I can help this person in a way. And at the end of the day, we can be helping each other. Like moms, for instance. I see a lot of moms on TikTok and social media where their child commits suicide. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But they always ask themselves, why did they do it? So
Yep.
that's an uncomfortable conversation to be had. And like I said, we never know what someone's going through. Until you have a conversation.
You're right. You never know. And then sometimes you have to have like more than one conversation with individuals to really get people to open up. Because I'm telling you right now, 9 times out of 10, you can have conversations with people, and if they don't trust you, they're not going to open up.
Yeah. Oh.
If they feel like you're trying to change them, they're not going to open up. And sometimes, it deals with with change, and it's just like when you don't really know yourself and you trying to please everybody else, or you trying to become a fixer in life, it really gets to the point to where you break down, and one of the biggest things in life is especially if you're suicidal, like for me, my biggest fear was living.
Is it?
I would sit in therapy, and I still sit in therapy today, and I still discuss the same conversations with my therapist because I'm trying to get it out of my head. When you suffer from suicidal idealization, it doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. And, just the last few years, I've been through a lot. I've been dealing with grief, trauma, and like trying to figure it out on my own.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? With the help of my psychiatrist and my therapist, but trying to figure it out on my own. And then you on top of that, having a chemical imbalance. And it's just like everything is just kind of like, it's in a whirlwind. It's like every time you feel like you done came to a point where you feel like I done figured myself out. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit. Even 5% of trying to figure myself out. Mm-hmm. Then it's like, boom, it get crushed down to like 1%. And it's like, fuck, starting back over again.
So what crushes that down to 1%?
Life in general. When you feel like you're living in a bubble, where you feel like you never had a chance or an opportunity to be able to just live life and feel happy. When you walk around depressed all the time, and it's just kind of like, you see everybody else around you when they're smiling and they having conversations, and it look like life for them is just going so great. A part of you want that, and you can't figure out, well, why I'm walking around so sad. I got a roof on my head, I got clothes on my back, I got food on the table, but there's still a part of me that's missing, that I haven't figured out who I am. Mm-hmm. But I'll give back to others all day. Mm-hmm. But then it's just like, I had to even roll that back and still look in that mirror and ask, like, who am I? Mm-hmm. And you know what? The pages are still blank. Because all I got on that page is the accolades, stuff that I do for other people. But I do it because I want to, or I do it because I don't want nobody to ever wake up suffering every single day like how I feel like I'm suffering. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even about fixing people. It's just that if you can stop somebody feeling at least half of what you feel, then it's like, you know what? I did something today.
That's probably why Robert Williams he always wanted to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Because he never wanted people to feel the way he feel. But then it puts on his mask because a lot of people didn't know that he was struggling with that, with suicide and just mental health.
Yeah, depression. Depression is like the number one killer, and it sucks because, like, I've been sitting here and I'm like, man, I need to enjoy this sun because it's just like, coming around here, come the fall creeping in, and it's about to start getting dark, which is one of my biggest challenges. You know what I'm saying? But the thing of it is that, like, my therapist just told me yesterday when I was in therapy, she was just like, Bonnie, you've come such a long way. And like for me, I'm thinking like I have, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I get caught up within myself where I'm like, you know what? Oh, I just feel stuck and I don't know why, you know, and we'll talk about it in therapy and we'll keep going and stuff like that. But like my main thing is to like motivate people like, yeah, it's hard. This shit is hard every single day. Every single day. There are some days where I don't even move out of my recliner where I'm just like, I'm stuck to my apartment, you know? And sometimes I feel like I'm back in the institution because I'm like, I don't leave. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, there's days where I'm just like, I know I can't drive my car because I'm not right today. You know what I'm saying? So it's like all these different variables, you know what I'm saying? Not being able to use the stove, make sure all the locks are locked up on my, the doors in the apartment. You know what I'm saying? Cause the OCD get triggered, the anxiety get triggered, the depression get triggered. You know what I'm saying? All these things that I have to go through every single day, 7 days a week. And it's a full-time job. But still make sure that I'm able to be there for the important people in my life. Make sure that I'm able to be aware, not like cover up, but at the same time, you know, waking up every morning, the first thing I have to do is like self-aware, what's going on with me? You know what I'm saying? And then that's how I'm trying to learn how to, you know, tackle those issues, but gradually like be aware of it, write it down. So when I have therapy, I'm able to discuss those things. What's making me feel like it's holding me back? Some days it's tougher than others where I'm just like, you know what? Today I feel defeated.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And on those days when I feel defeated, you know what I'm saying? I just have to make sure mentally I stay out of my head, you know? So I do a little different things, you know? And, you know, one thing that my therapist always told me, and I tell people too, to encourage them is if you do one thing that day, you got to tell yourself you accomplished something. I don't care if it's take out the trash. I don't care if it's just you got up and took a shower, brush your teeth, comb your hair, made your bed. At least you did something out of that day that you can go back and say, you know what, I did that today at least.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there was days where I was so bad that I wouldn't even get out the bed. I would just have like Gatorades and water just stacked along the side of my bed. So I wouldn't have to get out the bed. The only time I would get up is go use the bathroom. But I would wait till the last minute when my bladder be hurting. I would stay in the bed because I'm like, you know what? I don't need to eat today. So I would just fill myself up off liquids.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I just closed myself off in my room. The rest of my apartment wasn't even being utilized.
Right.
But I would just stay grounded right there. So I almost needed people to need me to do something to get me to get out the house. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm glad I got out the house today. But that was a force.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's like a struggle within itself when people be like, well, how is this person struggling when they go to work? Because they have to. It's a force, but it's also damaging when you ain't doing the work.
Yeah, that's so true. That's absolutely true.
I mean, like, that happened to me, you know, when I used to work at the airport. You know, it was like a force. You know, I even changed my shifts thinking like, you know, I worked first shift. I'm like, I did swing, I did graveyard, trying to find different ways to, you know, be like, you know what, it's going to be good. But everything always seemed good in the beginning because it's new and it's different. So it's like your brain reset. So about after that first week or two, and it becomes complacent and it's consistent, you back to square one.
Damn. Okay.
That's why most people hop or quit jobs or whatever they start, they don't finish because it's like relationships. Because when anything starts to become consistent, it's like, oh my God, this is a pattern that, you know what, I had to force myself to do. I can't deal with it. It become overwhelming. Then everything else rises up and it just come right back on your shoulders.
So it's overwhelming to have the same pattern, something familiar.
Well, it's different.
It's different. Okay.
Now, I have OCD. So those patterns is part of my trauma, but it's one of those things where like, if something's really bothering me, that pattern become a negative. So then I have to like try to stop the catastrophe in my head. So, you know what I'm saying? It go to, you know, most of the time I use my fidget spinners and stuff like that, but it goes in my head to make sure I have to like check everything. You know how I get. You know how I get, Charity. You already know. You know, the house about to burn down, the stove, you know. I go into security mode. So you already know how I get. It's a lot.
Your face.
My face. Y'all look, she over here laughing because I'm over here making face expressions because she know how I get.
Nigga, your face when you said catastrophe.
Oh, because I couldn't say it right. I'm like, catastrophe. But yeah, like.
Two eyes were big.
You done showed out. Y'all, Charity over here choking.
Sorry, y'all. It was the face she made when she tried to pronounce that word. But
we over here tearing up words again.
You will know that we will tear up a word. Don't be offended. And don't think we're not educated. We are very educated. Thank you.
But at the same time, just like how I was fixated when, we was on the train just a week ago, and I was like, oh my God, I left my window open. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had a whole thing drawn in my head, and I couldn't get I couldn't get everything out of my head, and was just like, okay, started panicking and trying to be cool. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, I got to get somebody to check on my windows. Like, I already had a whole imagination that somebody done broke into my apartment, stole all my stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it just kind of like.
Yeah, but they went and checked, right?
Yeah. Good friend Shannon, she got in her car.
Out.
She came to my apartment to check, and she was just like, nah. She was like, bro, your windows are closed. They locked. And I was just like, oh, good looking out. You know what I'm saying? But like, I had to know. But then like something brought that on for me to just boom, like my window's open.
Yeah, what brought that on though?
I don't know what I think what it was is because I knew I was going to be leaving for a long length of time. And like, I used to have that under control, but now like those fears are starting to come back. So it was like, man, I had to have something to be wrong. And the whole storyline went in my head, and it had to make me be like, okay, that's okay. Because you know what I'm saying? I haven't left like that in a while.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying? And even though I have my whole apartment, like, you know what I'm saying, MacGyvered out, and I got security cameras, but what really triggered me out was because my security camera inside my home was not working. It had went to offline. So then I was just like, right. So then like, that was all she wrote, But I mean, other than that, like, I have come a long way. I mean, since I've been diagnosed, but the struggles that come along with it, I mean, it's been a lot of ups and downs. A lot of ups and downs. But I continue to fight every day. I mean, that's what you have to do. And like, everybody's stories are going to be different. Everybody's fight is going to be different. Some people need more support than others. But like I tell people, make sure you have that core group that you can rely on, because trying to do it by yourself is hard. It's really hard. And
you may not have the tools to do it.
Right. Yeah, and some people think they have the tools when you go and you like, people, like I say, people go on TikTok and they be like, oh, this person inspired me. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with anybody inspiring you. We should be able to inspire each other.
Right.
But at the same time, like, if you really want to get down and dirty and really want to get to the root of the cause, you got to be able to talk about the uncomfortable truth.
You're definitely right. Like I said, a lot of people don't want to do that. I mean, that means peeling back your own layers too as well, because it's always easier to blame somebody else for your faults or something not happening or something going on, but you got to look at yourself too as well.
You really have to, and you got to hold yourself accountable. I know for me, it was just like, I used to disassociate a lot. I mean really bad. And it's to the point to where like people used to try to figure me out because they would be like, oh, you really quiet. And I'm just like, I like to keep to myself, because I'm observing the room, and it's the whole trust factor.
No, you're right.
And it just kind of like, you can't, you can't trust everybody. People come up to you and people be nice. When you first meet people, that's them being nice, not kind. Once you figure them out, then people may show the kind side of them. But, I take people at face value.
Yeah, I feel like everybody sometimes have intentions. Like, it can be bad intentions or good intentions when they come up to you. What's your intentions?
Right.
When you come up to me to have a conversation or want to be my friends, what's your true intentions?
I've had people ask me too, just like I went through several different treatment programs, I recently just got done with TMS. I've had people ask me like, man, why would you put your body through that? A, because I'm fighting. You don't know fully of what I go through on a daily basis. You only see me in one limelight. You know what I'm saying? You don't see me behind closed doors. You don't see all the pill bottles that I have to take. You don't see how my mom played tricks on me and stuff like that. because it's not for you to, it's not for everybody to know your business up front unless they really want to be able to get down to the uncomfortable truth and sit down and have a real conversation. Sometimes people just want to be nosy.
I think so too. That's, they don't have true intentions of getting to know you. They just want to be nosy.
And it's just like, I'm very comfortable with talking about what I'm going through because I feel like for so long I wasn't able to be myself. And what I mean by that, I wasn't walking around fake. I walked around quiet. My main goal thing was like, people ask me how I'm doing. Oh, I'm good. That would be my main go-to. I got so good at saying that I'm good that half of the time they would ask me something different. I would be like, I'm good. It didn't even make sense because I was robotic. It would be so easy. You want anything to eat? No, I'm good. I would be hungry. But in my fantasy, I'm just kind of like, I'm ready to go. Like, I don't want nothing. Let's cut this short. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I got to get back to my whole cave. I got to get back to the asylum that I done built for myself. Because my home was my sanctuary where it was like, I couldn't be touched. But also, I was a prisoner in my own home because that's where everything sat there with me. My trauma, my triggers, and everything. Damn. So whatever I fantasized in my head, it stayed with me behind those closed doors. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, like, when I'm out in the outside world, it was kind of like I was cheating myself back to, because I needed to get back to my traumas and my trigger. Right. I had to get back there so I could feel safe again, but I wasn't safe. But that's the only thing that I knew. So it felt comfortable. And at the same time, scary. Because I would have to fight my own fears. Damn. Imagine being, you know how y'all would come over to my house, you'd be like, dang, you look like you live at IKEA. Because everything was just set and everything looked staged. Because, hell, I didn't use my kitchen. It's just there. You open up my silverware drawer, I didn't have no real silverware. It was all plastic. I didn't even have a real plates. I had paper plates, paper cups. Why is that? Because the suicidal level that I was on, and I was on different highs and lows all the time with my mental, and I didn't have control of how I was feeling and with my fears, and sleepwalking, sleep talking, and being very self-harming to myself. Right. I had to take all of that out the household. Damn. Okay. Because I lived alone. You see what I'm saying? So the thing of it is, if I don't trust myself, who am I supposed to trust when I'm by myself? So all these standards had to go up in place. Right. And it was so bad at the time where it was just like, my therapist had me on this whole call thing where it was like, if I missed therapy or if I didn't stay in contact when I wasn't coming to therapy, they put that 911 call in for wellness check. So it was just like, I was just literally far gone because a part of me in the inside was just breaking down. I was breaking down and I was trying to figure out how to build myself back up. But every time I walked outside, I walked around with an armor. You know what I'm saying? So it was just kind of like all these barriers that I had to overcome by myself where people didn't even know what was going on. Right. Because see, I still had it all covered up where when you go out in public or whatever, you still put that smile on your face. You talk to people even though you didn't want to. I was being nice. No, you absolutely But I was miserable at the same time, and it was so exhausting that by the time I got back home, all I wanted to do was sleep. Oh, shit. So a lot of mental, a lot of emotional energy. Yeah, because you think about it. When you go to sleep, unless you're dreaming of having a bad nightmare, if you're going to sleep and it's a good sleep, half of the day has already passed by. So I felt like I accomplished something. Because I don't have to think. Because when I'm up and I'm not able to control my mind, my thoughts, and my mindset, all the fears and everything is just overwhelming me over and over again. There was nothing I could do. I felt trapped. Right. And then when you feel like you in a corner and you feel like you can't escape your triggers and your fears and everything that's going on with life and everything else, just like life in general, what else gonna come knocking at the door? Suicide coming in saying, you know what? Hey, you better off dead than alive. Because you know what? If you was dead, you ain't got to worry about all this. You're going to be set free. Damn. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So just like half of my life, I walked around dead. I wasn't alive. I chose not to feel because of fear. I didn't show emotions, didn't cry because of fear. So have you ever
lived?
No, still working on it in therapy because I feel like the way I lived was robotically. I knew what I had to do when I needed to do it. Be on time, never late. Make sure you get stuff done. People leave you alone. Go on about your business.
So, what's your definition of living?
Living for me is being happy. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just like at the same time, it's just like that's something that I always fantasize about. Now, as I'm continuing to do my therapeutic work, I start to realize like, hey, I'm wasting more time of my life not living because I'm trying to reach this far-fetched futuristic plan of being happy because of what I seen on TV, because of what I see other people look like. And see, that's me painting a picture of them and doing my own judgment in my head because I've been tricked. My mind's been hijacked to believe those things. And it get really heightened when I'm in depressed stage or my anxiety high or if I'm just emotionally just drained. You know what I'm saying? But in order to be able to live, I'm still trying to learn how to do that because of all the fears that intercept the process of me trying to get there. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just like one of those things where it's like I'm more self-aware of my trauma now. I'm more self-aware of like how I deal with things. And so now I try to be more open as far as communicating it out verbally and not keeping it to myself. For so long, I used to just keep everything in. Only person I had to talk to was myself, but I wasn't getting anywhere.
Right.
So it was just kind of like, I hate the word victim because the thing of it is, it's just like, nah, I'm not a victim. But at the same time, that's what it was panning out to when I wasn't talking to nobody and I was just only talking to myself. You know, talking to yourself and trying to give yourself that self-talk, you think it's doing you some good in the beginning, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Because you never real with yourself in those moments.
Right, yeah. I don't feel like I've done a lot of video log, like self video logs.
Right.
I mean, it's good because I can go back and watch that and be like, oh shit, you know, I never, you know, at that moment it felt good and I got it out, but then it's like a cycle. I'm still back in that moment again.
Right.
So no, it really doesn't help you because I didn't have the tools.
Right. And that was the other thing too. I had no tools in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, you know what, I'm surviving. I'm getting by because, you know, you skating through middle school, skating through high school, college or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, you know what, skated through, skated overseas, you know what I'm saying? And it's just kind of like, I thought I had it figured out until, you know, I found the right therapist that was just like, here's your whole laundry list of everything that need to be worked on. And then she started recognizing things that I was doing in therapy where it was just like, you know, putting my hands into my thighs and like, you know, kind of like self-harming, tapping other fingers, tapping other foot, you know what I'm saying? Like sweating, being tense, being tight, you know, so like the things that she recognized that I didn't even know I was doing because I've been doing it for so long. Nobody else gonna call you out on it. You know what I'm saying? And having a therapist that noticed these things and got down to the root of the cause, and it was just like, wow, I really got to accept what I see now. Right, working on it in therapy was the hardest part because there were some days in therapy where I'm just like, I don't even want to go. There was days where I left hella mad. I'm mad at the world. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I was being challenged. Still to this day, my therapist challenged me. There's days where I'm just mad as hell, but I'm just like, you know what? I needed that. I needed to hear that. You know, I needed that challenge because like my therapist would give me challenges to do, but I never knew what they really meant because I did it like homework.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And you're not supposed to, when your therapist challenges you or give you like a task to do, you're not supposed to do it like homework. You're supposed to really invest yourself into it to understand like what it really means and why they having you do it. And so it took me a while to understand why I was doing what I was doing because I looked at it as a homework assignment. Okay, this is what you want me to do. I did it. Here you go. Like you turning it back in looking for a grade.
Because with homework, you can bullshit around. You know what I mean? You can be like, well, I'm going to do this, write it out real quick before you get there and then hand it in.
Well, no, because mine was set up like, you know, being OCD. I was doing it like a presentation. I had it set up in categories, you know, neat writing and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm about to get a grade. You know, and it's just like, but, you know, that's the whole thing of, you know, growing up that, you know, You wasn't able to bullshit when you was a kid. You had to do shit right the first time.
Yeah,
you know,
you
they
have to
say,
do-
you know
shit
what,
the
if you
right
did it
way.
right the first time, you wouldn't have to do it again.
You wouldn't have to do
So,
it
you know,
again.
coming
That's
up from that kind of setting and background, everything I ever done, I had to make sure it got right done. You know what I'm saying? I was never nonchalant, like, you know what, whatever I get. Like,
Yeah, I learned
no.
that in college. I'm like, y'all doing too much.
You know what I'm saying?
But I was good at science, so.
You know, so we're just like, I'm the type of person, I didn't like school. I didn't hate it. Because I would, like, you know, daydream. The thing of it is, the reason why it was hard for me in school, it wasn't really hard. It was just that I would sit there and I would zone out. I would disassociate. And then, like, when a teacher is teaching something,
Yeah.
I couldn't really keep up because I would daze out. So it was kind of like I would have to, like, figure out in my own mind, how am I going to be able to remember this so I can take this test, and how I'm going to be able to process this to remember what I just thought I learned. You know what I'm saying? Everything for me was a challenge because it was like I was never focused.
Well, couldn't that be from your trauma, too?
Yeah.
Because I know I used to daydream like a motherfucker. My teacher used to be like, she used to step in front of me, in front of my desk, and she'll tap the ruler and go, "Are you with us?"
Wow.
Like, yes.
Nah, I was never that bad. I would literally be alert. Like, sometimes I would be in class and I would have a good day where I'm like, okay, I'm paying fully attention. And there was some days where I'm just kind of like, I would go ahead and just start reading ahead of the teacher if we was in like geography class or history class or whatever, to try to stay focused. But I was trying to figure out a pattern on the way for me to learn it and keep it.
Right. Retain it.
Yeah, I was an ABC student, sometimes a little D, but I was an ABC student. I wasn't going trying to have straight A's and B's. I was an ABC student. I did just enough to get by.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, but as far as life in general and just being able to, like, focus, it was hard because, like, I went through a whole phase of just feeling like a complete failure. Because of when you come from people knowing you at a high standard and then you get to that standard where it's just like totally different from everybody used to you being. I don't know what was harder. Me accepting myself for who I was genuinely, or other people worried about other people accepting me.
I think it was a little bit of both. Because you think about it, everybody see you in this limelight as this great athlete and untouchable, right? But then it's almost like you don't want to let them down or disappoint them. But at the same time, that sport was your lifeline. So what does it look like for you not having that sport in your life? For me, it was very difficult.
For me, it really wasn't that difficult. Because when I finally had came back to the States for good, I realized, like, man, I don't want to go back overseas. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try to, play here in the States. You know, I had that one WNBA tryout. And then after that, I was just kind of like, okay, what am I going to do? And then I think for me mentally, I was just completely just drained, and I was still trying to figure out how to survive. That I was trying to tell myself, you know what, you'll be okay without playing basketball. You know? Because, like, after that, after I had the WNBA tryout and we flew out to LA and we did that, I knew then, like, man, I'm going to have to end up going back overseas. I didn't want to do that. Because overseas just brought on more loneliness. Because nobody else that I knew was going with me.
Right.
You know, starting over again, new people, new teammates, didn't know what language I was going to be having to try to speak, which I couldn't speak anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That brought on more trauma. So I was just like, you know what? I'm not playing basketball anymore. And I played in a couple of programs out here, and it was cool because it was in state or whatever like that and traveling, but it was just kind of like, I need to, like, try to live. Because at the time I felt like, you know, maybe that'd be a good thing. Maybe I'll be happy if I'm not playing and I try to live life. It didn't work out that way though.
Right.
So I still had to wear the armor and walk around with it every day. But then I was around people who also didn't deal with their own mental health. And they used it otherwise, you know, with drinking and partying and stuff like that. So, I mean, when you're around people like that, and associate with people who don't deal with their own mental health or care about it, it's easy to go undercover. Because nobody going to question you and say, hey, how you doing? Nah, really talk to me. Nobody's going to do that. So if you're around the type of people, you always have to be aware of your surroundings, because if you're around people like that, nobody's going to question what you're doing.
Damn.
That's why so many people go under the radar all the time. Mm-hmm. Nobody's ever going to question it.
Yeah, that's true.
But so, now that since we have grown, and I realize, like, you know what? I don't want to be around toxicity. I have to be around people who are aware of their own shit too. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And no judgment, them the type of people I have to be around, because I can't have nobody in my circle who are not capable or not willing to want to be able to handle their own shit.
That's true.
Because we have too many people in this world that can sit here and tell you, oh, I know I'm fucked up in the head. I know I got this and I got that or whatever. But it is what it is. And they don't do anything about it.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. A lot of people like, it made me who I am today, or it is what it is. It ain't is what it is.
Right.
Like, that just, for me, that makes it look like you're broken, and it makes you like you're unaware of yourself, really.
Right.
You think you know about yourself, but you're unaware and you're scared to do anything about it. I get it.
Well, the thing of it is, too, is this right here. One time my therapist asked me in therapy, and she was just like, so, Bonnie, let's just say, if you was no longer here, what would you want people to know? And the first thing I told her is that one thing nobody would ever not be able to say is that, you know what? I never gave up. I never gave up. I tried. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because the thing of it is that, like, mental health is very challenging. That's why I get upset when I see these commercials and they be like telling people, oh, if you suffer from depression, you could just take this pill right here, or you could do online therapy. And it sometimes it sends the wrong message.
It do. And it makes it, they look very happy. I think the environment, how they show the environment, it's just like, you just got to be in a happy environment. And then you got to like take these pills to like, it's just, I feel like it's misleading.
It's very misleading. It's very misleading. And at the same time, it's advertisement to sell, a pharmaceutical drug. But at the same time, it's just like, who is it helping?
Yeah.
Who is it really helping?
Them.
Because if nobody want to walk around and talk about their truth about it, like real talk, you get these athletes that sit there and talk about the struggle, and they're no longer playing sports, and they retired, or a team didn't pick them up. They left with that. That's onsetting more depression for them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, that's a major struggle.
You wondering every day, like, how am I going to survive? How am I going to live? You know what I'm saying? People don't understand those struggles, though.
I think people don't understand because, number one, they're not athletes. Number two, they are not aware of their own struggles. Right. But when you're an athlete, I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to be true and honest with you. When I first started playing, it was all fun and games, but also I learned that, oh shit, this makes me feel better, and I don't have to think when I'm on the court or whatever sport I'm playing.
Yeah.
When I'm out there on the court, I don't think about what I had going on at home, or like the stuff, my trauma or my triggers. I don't think about that, right?
Right.
But or if I'm on the soccer field, I don't think about that. I think about, as a goalie, like, I wish this bitch would try to kick me again. Right. I'm going to stop this ball. Not only that, I'm going to tip her over the goalpost. So there's a lot of things that in sports you don't have to think about, but when it stops, that's when you start learning about yourself. And that's where depression, anxiety kick in. A lot of those mental health things kick in. And you do, as an athlete, I have to say it, you think about suicide because you no longer have that outlet to distract you. So people use a lot of distractions, but it don't mean it's healing you.
Nah, you absolutely right.
Because at some point, you got to stop.
That's why when you start doing your work, you have to really sit down with yourself and say, like, I don't need nobody else to validate me. Because sometimes we rely on people validating us and them telling us who we are as a person to make us feel good. People have to stop that. The only validation you need from yourself is you.
That's the thing. I don't think they know how to do it.
It's hard, but I'm saying when you start doing your work, you realize that. If you haven't done your work yet, you're going to be in denial and you still reaching out for other people to make you feel good.
Oh, yeah. You're always going to look for somebody. But when you do your own work, you start learning like some of the unhealthy relationships you were in. You ask yourself, I probably would never been in it if I had done this years ago. You see what I'm saying?
No, you're absolutely right.
But it's crazy. Oh, here's some questions. And here we go.
Bring it.
So, uncomfortable truth. Here's the thing. We all need to accept you should either have a supportive partner or no partner. There's no third option.
Okay, with that can go one or two ways, because what if you're not in a relationship?
It can mean supportive, like people around you.
Yeah, you know, the thing of it is that you do have to have a supportive partner, but you also have to have a supportive partner that is willing to understand who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Because a person can be supportive and not have no clue and think they're saying all the right things when some of the things they may be saying is triggering.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, you know, that's true in some sense, and then in some sense it could be like, you know, not so true.
Okay. That's something to think about, guys. Here's another one. If someone can't tell you their flaws, they have a dangerous lack of self-awareness.
That's true. That also means that they don't know themselves as an individual.
That's very dangerous.
That's when you have to have a relationship with yourself and really sit down and say, you know what, here's the things about me that are not perfect. And really dig deep in there to be able to say, hey, here's all my flaws. This is what I do. But then the main question you need to ask a person is, are you doing anything about it? Because sometimes people are content with their flaws. You want to put the blame on everybody else.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's one thing that you really have to sit down and ask a person like, hey, if you could tell me your flaws, what are you doing about it? Are you content with how you are and say, oh, that's just me? Or are you going to say, here's my flaws and I'm working on them and I'm not perfect, but here's some improvement? You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you got to show people.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And here's another one. Self-respect comes from self-control. Yeah.
Yeah. I say yeah.
There's times where, you know, I respect myself. If I didn't respect myself, I'd probably be in prison right now.
You would have a lot of self-control.
Right. And so, but because I respect myself to the point where I know self-control is important to me.
It's very important though, because there's moments where I can and I want to be manic. And what I mean by want to be is like just release. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, nah, I can't, you know, because one thing, you know, it's like having that self-control is being able to walk away, reevaluate the situation, talk myself down and go from there, you know?
Yeah. Here's another one. I know we talked about this and we actually touched up on this in this conversation. If you always think your happiness is somewhere else, it's never you
might want to start over. You over here remixing.
I will start over. If you always think your happiness is somewhere else, it'll never be where you are.
That's so true. That is so true. So true. So true.
Explain
because,
that.
I mean, you think about it. That's like if somebody bought you a brand new house, right? Mm-hmm. And that's all you ever wanted. You got the pool, you got the heated floors, and they saying, Charity, all you got to do is pay $2 for rent. But you living There's rules and regulations to living in a house, but it's rent free. You got to worry about no bills. Food is going to be supplied to you every week. You know what I'm saying? That's like living a dream, right? That's what you always wanted. But then on the other side of the river is, for you thinking it's a better opportunity.
Yeah.
Because over here, you living by yourself and you get all this stuff for free and you ain't got to worry about dealing with people or whatever. But on the other side of that river, you know what I'm saying? You got your friends, you've been able to socialize, you got things to do and everything over here. But you over here by yourself and you may have a dog and a turtle. And you ain't got to worry about no bills. But on the other side of that river, you have to fight for everything you want. You got to get a job, you living in poverty, and et cetera, et cetera. But people over there look more happier. They're smiling and they enjoying themselves.
That's true.
So here you got an opportunity where it's like, man, I got everything I need over here. I ain't got to worry about nothing. And they giving me an allowance every week, but I ain't got to spend it on lights, no bills. Everything's paid for free. But on the other side, you got to work for everything and everybody look happy. You're going to want that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that statement is really true. And people don't realize how much we actually do that every single day. And that was a part because that was one thing that I struggled with the most and still do, is because it's just like when your depression really get deep down, you think your life is just miserable and everybody around you is doing better. So you want what they have. You know what I'm saying? It's like the mind play tricks on you. Your mind get hijacked and it's no coming back from that.
Damn, okay. No, that's absolutely true. Because you got to think, if you had, like you said, that big house, $1 million house, and everything was taken care of, you got all the money in the world, you're still going to be unhappy.
Still going to be unhappy. Because you thinking, you looking across the river and everybody over there laughing and they probably ain't got a pot to piss in, you know what I'm saying, having to fish for food, but they're able to socialize and enjoy themselves and it look like, man, life is what it is over there, but you living over here by yourself and maybe the next house down is like maybe 2 miles and you know what I'm saying, but everything's paid for on this side, you ain't got to do nothing, you're gonna want the opposite.
You wonder why we waffle back and forth. You notice that as people, we waffle. We want that thing, right? And then when we get it,
not good enough.
We think about, I remember when it was just simpler times.
Right.
So now you want to go revert back to when you wanted that thing, but that's where you want to be now.
Because you know why? When we had it, we didn't appreciate it.
That's true.
And then once we figure out the value of it, sometimes it's too late to go back and get the exchange. Sometimes we have to go through so much in life to realize what we had was good. But sometimes even if you go back to try to regroup to what you had, it may never be the same.
Right. And I think the other thing is people don't look at the lessons that are being taught during that journey. In that process, you see what I'm saying? Right. We're just like, we'll get to that moment, and they're like, oh, it's still not good enough. So what did you learn? Nothing.
And sometimes that's just the individual not being happy.
All right. Since it's an uncomfortable truth. Okay, let's talk about signs you're in a survival mode. Okay. Ooh. I think sometimes I'm in survival mode all the time.
I'm always in survival mode. I mean, sometimes I've had people ask me like, oh, are you in the military? Never been in the military. But, life itself is a survival. You always in war with yourself and with other people. Just the world in general. You know what I'm saying? And, they call it fight or flight mode.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we in. Whether you inside the home, outside the home, in your car, it don't matter. You're going to be in fight or flight mode because then you have to put on that judgment hat. You got to make decisions for yourself. You got to be aware of people around you. It's stressful. It's literally stressful. And you got to make sure you keep your core of friends and people small.
Yeah.
You definitely have to make sure of that.
So it says, little things can set you off and feel overwhelmed. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think now, back then, yeah. But now I don't get set off that quick. It takes me a while to get worked up there, and when I do, that bomb is huge. but usually it takes a while. You feel like you're existing rather than living.
Yep.
We just talked about that.
Yep. You exist. You know what? You show up. You do what you got to do. People see you, and you did your part. Mm-hmm. Then you can go back home and hide.
That's in every job that we have. A lot of us exist, but don't live.
Because people are programmed to be aware of your presence, but not your actual feelings.
Right. Okay. You feel more tired physically and emotionally.
Yep. Yep. That's when you want to just sleep all day.
Yep.
You don't want to think about anything.
I had a moment like that yesterday.
And then it's like people start talking to you, it feel like they nagging.
Oh, I had a moment like that yesterday, the day before yesterday.
You know, it's just like...
Just trying to survive that moment. Trying to survive that day.
At that point, it become whatever.
Yep. It sure does. Whatever.
No matter who it is.
Mm-hmm. Your memory and concentration are suffering. Yep.
Suffering, I don't even know, they should have said it's not there.
Yep.
Because you just be in the moment, you be like, you try to remember stuff and you tell yourself you're going to remember stuff and then it just come just a straight up memory loss. Mm-hmm. You just be like, you know what, maybe I did say it, maybe I didn't. But if you said I said it, okay then.
Yep, that's true. I put my phone in the fridge, the top fridge the other day.
You had to take it out and unthaw it.
I had to call it. Still, my stuff was on vibrate.
You can go to find my phone?
On my computer, but I didn't think about that.
Oh.
I didn't think about it. It wasn't until I got a cold pack to put on my leg. It was right there.
Wow.
You feel a lack of motivation and passion. That's so true.
That's definitely true.
Definitely.
That should be like the number one right there.
Yeah, that should be the number one. I felt that yesterday.
I felt that yesterday too, and the day before. Like for real.
So these are signs you're in survival mode. Okay, the next one is you want to withdraw and isolate from others. I did that yesterday.
You sure did. I called your ass at like 8:30. No, it wasn't even 8. It was like 8:30 in the morning.
No, I was on the phone at the time.
But yeah. But you did call me back later on that evening though.
Yeah. But I felt like there was one of those, that was that one day, like I felt like I wanted to just close up and isolate, not deal with shit.
I'm starting to feel like one of those days where I'm just like, I just want to get on the train and just take a train ride to Canada for a day. But then I come to find out, like, damn, I have to spend a night, at least one night, because it's not a quit trip. So I was like, man.
I was thinking that today too. Like, just hop on the train and just be gone. You feel out of control and anxious.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes.
Anxious more. Out of control, not really, but anxious more. Mm-hmm. You know, I get to the point I rearrange my whole apartment.
You sure do.
So you never know what you're going to get when I'm anxious. Especially
sometimes I'll come to your apartment, I'm like, damn, this nigga didn't move.
And you know I get to throwing stuff away, and I just gotta go.
Man, you have thrown so much stuff away, and it's not like, oh, not valuable stuff. This nigga's thrown valuable stuff away.
Yeah. And then I have moments where I'm like, man, maybe I should have kept that, you know. But it comes and goes. But you know, in that moment, everything gotta go.
Yep. Yep. So those are the survival signs those are the signs that you are in survival mode. So look at that. Ask yourself questions. Am I in survival mode? And if you got a lot of yes to that and not a lot of no's, like 98% you are in survival mode. We never think about those things. We never know, like, if we are in survival mode, because we tell ourselves, well, I'm just a go-getter. Sometimes you may be a go-getter, but you're also in survival mode. So,
No, you're right.
that's something to think about.
No, you're absolutely right.
And then also, since we're talking about the uncomfortable truth, let's talk about. I know that we never touch up on this, and I'm just going to touch up on it just a little bit because I've had friends go through it. Is it postpartum?
Yeah. Postpartum depression.
I think a lot of people don't talk about that, especially women after having a child, what women go through.
Nah, that's really true, though. They do go through a lot. I mean, just think about the stress and the trauma that you put on the body, to deliver another human. And the hours of being in labor, or if they have to have emergency C-section, just all that, pain. For some women, they love the experience. Some women, it's more traumatizing to the body, to them, and it's just like, there need to be more out there for women when they do go through those situations, because for some women, postpartum don't hit to after, it's postpartum for a reason, but sometimes it don't hit them until weeks later sometimes, or days later, because they don't really
after their what they call maternity leave sometimes.
Yeah, so because sometimes you may feel like you're tired, or something don't feel right. For some women, it don't hit right away,
right?
And maybe they should I don't know, I ain't never pushed out a baby before, but maybe they should set up standards where it's before the mother and child could go home, maybe they should be in the hospital for a week and be evaluated and say how you feel, and
just get that extra help too.
There is man, I seen it on TikTok. I don't forgot what country it is.
It's New York.
No, it's a country.
You talking about the hotel where they go have their baby, and then they stay 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, I thought it was 30 days.
Yeah, 30 days. And then you have your own nurse. They prep your meals and stuff like that.
Yeah, they have the...
That's New York.
So that the mom can actually get rest. Which, cause for a lot of moms, it's a lot of stress on the body. So they do need that rest to be able to regroup and come back from it. Not everybody have help after giving birth. So I can only imagine what women go through after they give birth and you don't have help, or, people to help around the clock so you can get that sleep and regain, because your body's going through so many different changes.
No, you're absolutely right. And I don't know what it is to give birth. I heard it's very painful. Sometimes you poop on yourself. That I do know. As far as pooping on yourself, nigga, I still have trauma from hiking with the leaves.
Oh, you wrong for that. We need to do another mental health hike.
Oh, this
it can be, because it's starting to be fall. Yeah, I think we need to do another mental health retreat.
No, absolutely.
Regroup with everybody that was on the first one and see how everybody's doing. But yeah, we should do a hike, but a mile hike to a local waterfall. Just find our inner peace. And I wish y'all could see Charity face, because she ain't feeling that right now.
I'll bring more toilet paper this time and no more snacks.
We'll make sure we bring enough water too.
Oh yeah, because we ran out of water. But yeah, no, definitely women do go through a lot, especially with that. And it's always good, especially you wives. If your wife's having a baby, just give her that extra help, that extra support, because their body do go through a lot.
Nah, they do.
Emotionally and physically.
You're right.
So that being said, let's move on to the next one. I know we're talking about all these uncomfortable conversations, but I have to throw it in there. Let's talk about youth suicide and why it's at its all-time high.
I feel like the number one problem is bullying, because you see, even on the news, kids being bullied. Kids come from different backgrounds, different home sets, and social media.
Oh man, social media plays a major part, I feel like, in the youth lives, really. See, back then we didn't have social media like
We didn't have it. And you know what? It's like with social media out and with all this, you know, we really didn't have internet back then either. You know, back then in our era when internet first started, it was dial up, you know. But like we didn't have access to people outside of seeing them at school.
That's true.
You
That's
never knew what
absolutely true.
nobody else did out in their home front outside of school. And you know, you only at school for like 6 hours. You know, so the thing of it is just that like now people are all about trying to be popular and be influencers and all this other stuff. A lot of kids can't do that. Like, you know, there's a trend going on where, you know, kids are already back in school. And parents are taking their kids to Walmart, even like little toddlers who start in pre-K or kindergarten, and they trying to buy them Walmart shoes, but they're not really trying to buy them. They just want their kids to be like, what are those? I'm not wearing those. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, why do that? Because some kids, parents, that's all they can afford. You know, you doing that with kids who don't even know the value of $1. Can't even count money yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They don't know the value of like how much stuff really costs. You know, you got a child that's like 4 and 5 years old that's about to start pre-K and kindergarten, and they got on a pair of $70 shoes that they're gonna scuff up in 2 days.
Yeah, that they're gonna grow out of too.
You got this. Well, you got this whole trend also where parents is like, "Here's my kid first day of school, but look at how they come back." So they whole entire outfit from head to toe probably was like $150 total, and they come back shoes all dirty. You spent a good $100 on the shoes alone.
Yeah.
Holes in the pants. You know, kids don't know the value of $1, so why invest all that money
Yeah.
and then be mad?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, and I feel like it's definitely a social problem. I think not so much on the West Coast. Well, in Pacific Northwest, they really don't care how you dress. We saw that.
Yeah.
But on the East Coast and the West Coast, you are going to get the slack for it. Oh, them ain't real Jordans, or you know, oh man, what your mom do? Shop at Walmart? Like, so these kids are already getting a lot of pressure in social media, a lot of pressure in school. So just think about it. You go to school, you get bullied, right? You leave school, you can't, like back then when we left school, school was school. You left everything at the school, right?
Right.
You know, you'll hear word of mouth, oh, so-and-so said this, but it was never like, I can leave school and then I have to open up my phone and I see A, B, and C talking about me, saying all these untruths about me, calling me this. You're putting on a lot of things, and no matter, and I can't tell you this person, you know, this child may have, you know, not so good home life.
Right.
So not only that, you can't run from home life, you know, because you're dealing with chaos in school, and then turn around, you have to deal with chaos on your phone. Then you turn around, you have to deal with chaos at your home. So where's this child going to run to? At some point, parents, we have to take responsibility of our children and not put the responsibility in other folks' hands.
True.
You know, we're looking, you know, because as parents, we don't want to, you know, teach our children, you know, the morals, the values of what life is. And I'm not talking about in a religion sense. I'm talking teach your child how to self-love themselves. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I tell this with my autistic kid all the time. I say, you know, you're going to go to school, and you're going to have people who ain't going to like you. That's none of your business. I said, the only person that should be liking themselves is you. I said, learn to love yourself. We're teaching, you know, we had teachable moments. Loving yourself, what that looks like. You know, be aware of your emotion. If you cry, so what? That don't make you less of a boy, less of a man. That makes you human. You got emotions. You may not have a good day, and that's okay. And I tell my kids that all the time. You may not have a good day, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
But, I tell them, be respectful with it, how you deliver it.
Right.
So
Definitely.
people, because, he can be a little sharp. But, that's the autism in them. But we've been working on that. But I think a lot of kids, their parents don't do their job. They figure if I spend all this money on my child, then my child got it.
Yeah. People, the thing of it is that like, when other kids are bullying kids that are misfortune or they may be different or kids are just bullying a person just to be mean, you really got to talk to the person that's doing the bullying and sit them down and say, hey, what's really going on with you?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because, and when parents don't address their child's situation of doing the bullying, then they need to be sit down too and be like, you know what? You never want to question anybody parenting, but sometimes some people parenting have to be questioned. Y'all may not agree with that, but I'm just saying that's my own personal opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Because, parenting is one of those things that don't come with the correct guideline on how to be a parent. Being a parent is something that, you learn from how you was taught, but then it's up to you on how you choose to raise your child, and that's where you be held accountable for, But the thing of it is just that, especially with suicide among the youth, the numbers was really high. School shootings, bullying, it's really sad. Like kids are not even allowed or able to be just kids while our other kids, like in our era, when we was growing up, yeah, kids was mean. Yeah. But it didn't go to the extent to where kids was bullying and other kids would join in and gang up on a kid and tell a kid, you know what, you should kill yourself. Like it was never to that extent for us, and kids would fight it out, and that was the end of that. We would talk smack to each other and go on about our business.
Right.
But nowadays, kids have taken it to a whole new different level.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to look what's going on, like you said, what's going on inside the home of that child that's bullying, or those kids that's bullying. There's something that's lacking.
Yeah.
Either they're picking up something or a parent is abusing them, so they're taking their frustration out when they get to school on that child that they consider to be weak.
No, you're right.
So, we really, people like, we need, laws for gun violence. You're right, we do. But also we need to be parents and step up and know what the hell your child's doing.
That's true.
What's going on emotionally, physically. You have to have conversation with your child, and it has to be uncomfortable conversations. And, you have to be honest with your child.
You have to.
And don't act like you know everything, because you're not. And your child gonna call you out. These kids day and age, they do call you out.
They do, their little rude ass.
They are. But, it's just having conversations. This is what it is. And, I think with my 13-year-old autistic guy, going to school, middle school was rough for him because he would get bullied. But here's the thing. He never he's real quick with his mouth. He's real quick. He'll end a bully in a second. And there was one time where there was one kid that kept bullying, and I had to go up to the school. We went through the proper channels, told the principal, all this, the teachers, and it kept happening. So I went up to the school, and as a parent, you don't want your child to get hurt. So the first thing you do, you come to defense. But right. I also had to see, what's going on with this child. So I talked to my autistic guy. He said, I don't know. So the next day, he went back, and he asked the kid, he said, hey, he asked him, he said, where's the one where you repeat stuff? The
Stutter?
not stutter. You're always repeating.
You always repeating. I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say.
We're playing charades here. Like, he said, where they have to Tourette's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he went back. He asked because he noticed that he was having, all these movements. Mm-hmm. And he asked, and he said, "Hey, do you have Tourette's?" And the kid goes, "Yeah, why?" He said, "No reason. I just noticed that you always do that." And he said, "It's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's probably your superpower." And after that day, that kid left him alone. Stopped messing with him. And then, of course, another kid started messing with him. But, my autistic kid told him, we tell him don't do violence, but he did. He said, "I'm going to kick your butt down the stairs if you keep going." So, bully, it's, have conversations. And as parents, when we hear that our child's being bullied, that's a hard conversation.
It is.
And I remember how I felt. I felt like I couldn't do much, but angry at the same time because this kid was his same age or older. And all you want to do is like, I'm going to go kick this kid's ass, kick it all over the town.
You want to be the protector, but then you realize like at the same time, you want your kids to be able to, take the initiative and be able to go through the right channels first.
Right.
Before taking any other higher measure.
Right.
And yeah, like when it comes to these schools, that's another thing that the schools really need to get under control because a lot of schools have failed kids by not going and doing what they need to do by talking to the other parents and putting certain things in standard to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this.
Yeah.
And then something bad happens and then everybody want to be like, well, we didn't know. We took it lightly.
Yeah. And I think, there was only one person that I knew that did it right. And his name was Mr. Bird, and he was a principal at Jefferson Elementary. And man, when I tell you, when a kid act out, he'll say their name. It wouldn't be in a rude way. It's very respectful, but he was like, you're going to come into my office. He'll know every kid's name and their mom and their parents and ask them questions. He was giving these kids respect. And that's where I realized, and he was a black principal from the South. You know what I'm saying? And so I realized it really is about getting to know a kid and getting to know your own kid and giving them that respect, female or male, regardless, give them respect. If you want them to respect you, just give them the respect.
So you're right. Respect come a long way.
It does come a long way. So that being said, today was open conversation. Uncomfortable truths. There's so many uncomfortable truths out there that we would love to get to, but that would take a long time. If you guys have any questions, we would put the email on the summarize after the summarize of the podcast. That way you can email us, tell us what your thoughts are, give us some stars or saying, hey, this is something you need to work on. Let us know. Or if there's a topic that you want to discuss, please email us. Or if you want to come onto the show and have conversations, please email us. Let us know. That being said, I want you guys to have a good night and see you next week.